today's guest is going to help us so that we can actually be successful in the things that we're choosing in our life. Because there are ways that we are blocking ourselves that we may not be aware of at all. Oh, Edit B Kiss, thank you so much for joining me today. And ladies, she's coming to us live from London. I am so delighted that she's had an afternoon. Are you a fan of tea?
Actually, yeah, I love tea, but I only the herbal tea, so not the English breakfast tea or, no caffeine. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, no caffeine. So how long have you been in the London area?
I moved here in 2018.
And where were you before?
Oh, yeah, so I moved here from Hungary. I was living in Hungary that time. I'm originally from Hungary, but I used to live in other countries as well. But specifically when we moved here, I was coming from Hungary. Yeah.
Wow. And now Hungarians, they have kind of some ritual around tea. Is tea part of the Hungary culture, Hungarian culture?
We had a lot of teas when I was growing up, but we had the tea with sugar or honey and with lemon. So with lemon juice. We never had it with milk like the English kind of way.
That's fascinating. What drew you to London?
It was that time, it was really interesting because I just went through the karma yoga healing trainings and then I just got activated with my pineal gland got activated through a samadhi meditation. And I was traveling to London for just a conference. And I was sitting in the car going from the airport to the hotel, and suddenly I started to cry, and the word come to my head, which was home. And I was like, what the heck? I'm not a crybaby. Why I'm crying in a taxi? And then second, like home, I don't even like this city. So that's how it started in January or February 2020, 2018, February. And then I was confused and I was staying for a week and figuring out things. And then I was like, it's interesting because I've been in London several times before, but it's always felt too crowded, too distant, too, I don't know, a bit cold. It was a bit weird for me. Like I wasn't imagining to move here, obviously. And but then after this situation, I started to have lots of synchronicities, serendipities, like more breadcrumbs from the universe. And then it started to unfold and made sense in many ways that, yeah, this is the next step. So then within 5 months, I actually moved with my children. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And how old were your children at that time?
My daughter just finished the Hungarian kind of kindergarten, so she was 6.5, and my son was, I think, 10 or 11. And yeah, so they were, I mean, my son wasn't too happy because he just had a 1 year in a school. So we moved before as well. So we in their life they moved a couple of times, like nearly every 1.5 year. So they were like, do we really need to move? I just got some new friends, and then and I was like telling them like, oh, this is gonna be the last one, don't worry. Or something like that, to make them. But my daughter was more open to it. She was younger. She already, supposed to go to a new school anyway, so it was for her anyway a change. But for him, it was a bit of like, oh, I again a new place. But yeah, I mean, now after, 7 years later, we are still in London, and now they are actually saying, like, yep, it was a good decision, mom. We are happy that we are here. So I was like, okay, great.
Well, that's wonderful. And it sounds like you've been in London for a longer period of time than maybe the previous places where they had lived.
Yeah,
So it does,
yeah,
like, we are settled. This feels like home.
yeah.
Oh, that is so cool. Well, I'm curious. I know there's so much other stuff I want to talk about, but when you said you were going through is the karmic yoga, or correct me,
Karma yoga healing. Yeah,
okay, so you were going there, you were getting certified. Is that correct?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, and then in that your pineal gland like opened up and you had this like you had a deep spiritual experience that called you.
Yeah, yeah.
So that had you experienced things like that before, or was that a whole new level that has opened up your um, the energy and the receptivity that you've had?
Yeah, so I was doing spiritual practices since 2003, 4, like when I was in my 20s, because I experienced panic attacks and then I was looking for some modalities to help with it, you know. So I started to do Reiki, Reiki 1, Reiki 2, and then I also did family constellation therapies and extrasense retreats. So I was into that kind of energy healing thing already. And then I also became a Reiki master like a year earlier than that situation. So I was actually not searching for anything. I felt like, wow, I'm actually doing great. I'm actually, you know, in top of my, you know, spiritual thing. And I was just invited there to translate. I was just invited to this event to translate from English to Hungarian. So it wasn't, I wasn't taking it seriously at all. So I went there and then I actually been in that meditation and that was like already shifted a lot of things. And then it actually wasn't the time when I did the exam or I did the, you know, the whole course. It was just I visited there, I translated the booklets and stuff, but I returned again and again to actually finalize my course and then my certificate. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing how that happened. Like that wasn't your intention to like I don't really need this. I'm just, doing a job. And that was a portal for you. Wow.
Yeah.
So you had struggled with panic attacks before, and is that what drew you into the holistic healing and therapy? Like tell me how did you get to where you are?
Yeah, so actually that's what how it started because I mean, already I was fascinated when I was a teenager. I was fascinated about history, mythology, you know, and geography. I loved traveling. I loved going into mythological sites, you know, and Greece, Italy, all of those places. And then I really liked that I was reading about religions because in Hungary back then we were not really into any religion. You know, we wasn't religious country, so people didn't go to church and stuff, you know. So basically, I had no religion. I grew up without religion. And then I was a teenager when I started to read books about it with all kinds of, you know, Buddhism, Taoism, like all of these things. And then that's how I was like to learn about them. And then when the panic attacks, then at first I didn't know what was going on. And then they gave me some medication, which I didn't like. I didn't like the effect, you know, like numbing me and then feeling like more out of control. So I said, no, I want to find something which is more helpful and then more natural. So that's how I got into the spiritual healings. But unfortunately, for like decades, it was just helping to manage it. You know, it never helped to prevent it or stop these kind of issues. It was like, oh, it's happened again. Let's go back to a bit of fix, you know, oh, it happened again. Let's go back to calm myself down or something like that. So even though I was doing a lot of Reiki healing or family constellation therapies, they were not able to fix many of my issues. Only the karma yoga healing was able to do it. That's why I was so excited about it, and that's why I moved to London and established my healing business because that was actually so powerful that it was able to speed like on a more faster way to and gentle way to actually stop things like really like it was flabbergasting, yeah, the results.
Well, take me deeper into that. So, I mean, family constellations, I've heard such wonderful things about it, and that's supposed to, from my understanding, get to root causes, but it sounded like none of those other modalities, like Reiki, that's all about balancing your energy and getting that um managed. So then how was the karma yoga? What was different about that? And then did that also have anything to do with, I know you do ancestral healing work as well. So yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so basically with family constellation therapy, normally we get into the soul family and then we are releasing and healing soul family issues, mostly ancestral related issues, right? Or anything which is related to your lineage, like your family tree, like any kinds of relatives having some trauma or some issues, and that's how it's related to you. So that's the family constellation therapy. With the karma yoga healing, it has nothing to do with the asanas. I want to say it up front because people will maybe thinking just doing some yoga. No, it has nothing to do with asanas. It has more to do with meditations, with breathing, but not breath work. It's not breath work either. So it's some kind of breathing, some kind of meditations, but the most important part is that it's an Adiyogi Shiva techniques. They are Adiyogi Shiva techniques from Adiyogi means the first yogi, and Shiva was the first yogi. So this is from Kashmiri Shivaism. And basically, it one of them is the samadhi meditation, and the samadhi meditation which helps you to activate the eighth chakra, not just the seven, and the pineal gland, and brings you into transcendental state. So why do you need to go into transcendental state for healing? Is because that's when you have access to your unconscious mind, which is carrying all of these buried traumatic experiences, which is which is came to you like this lifetime or even past lives. When I work with clients, we go back to past life traumas very often. Sometimes childhood traumas, but very often also past life traumas or between life traumas. This even happened. So it's really fascinating, and it's much deeper and much more personalized than a family constellation therapy when we're more dealing with the relatives and then with the ancestors. This is more your own personal journey and healing those bits of it. And then so what else we do? That's the source memory healing. We call it source memory healing when we do into these memories and we release them. So you can actually heal PTSD with this, panic attacks, depression, any kinds of mental health issues, and even physical health. Is how you heal physical health with this is like basically you got triggered because you have this physical health issue. So you have all kinds of negative emotions because you are sad, angry, limited, whatever you are because of that physical health issue. And because you have those negative low vibration emotions, the unconscious mind can actually guide you to the memories where you felt similar way and still release those core traumas which is caused this physical issue right now. And what happens is you're not gonna be healed like this, like magically for the next day or on that same day. But what happens is attract from the karma vortex, from the universe, it attracts the solution for your healing. For example, in my case, I was suffering from pelvic infection for years. I think many women has that. It's like, your pelvic or your bladder get infected, and then you have like UTR or whatever. So basically, I always suffered from that, and sometimes a couple of times a year. And then what happened is the doctor always give me some antibiotics, but only like for a week antibiotics, right? And they said like, okay, no, you are good to go. But then it came back again, it came back again. So just for information, the usually the pelvic area, the sacral chakra area is about relationships. So if you had relationship issues, maybe past life or this lifetime, or you're dealing with a relationship issue, that can cause that kind of illness after a while, like it's piling up that situation. So basically what happened is I did a source memory healing on that because I just actually happened to have it like couple of weeks or months later after I did the course. So I was like, okay, let's do this healing. And like the next day, I actually met with a doctor, which was completely different than other doctors. And this time he said, I'm not just going to give you 1 week of antibiotics like you always did. I'm going to give you 4 weeks and different medications for the 4 weeks because it needs to be cleared out completely. So then after that, literally that happened, 7 years ago, I haven't had any issue. So it's like really he did a good job because I was actually, released the past, which always caused this thing, and then rewrote the Akashic records because we energetically released it and healed it. So it's rewrote the Akashic records and it's shifted my whole future.
Mm.
And the other fascinating thing was with my iron deficiency. Iron deficiency, it was the same thing. I was lying in bed. I was really weak and really sick because if you have iron deficiency, you get all kinds of infection all the time, like flu and then like cold or other kinds of infections, bacteria or viruses. And then it happened to me like for a couple of months. I was in and out of always something, and then I was like, okay, it's not good. I even get a blood test, but somehow I wasn't felt the urgency to shift my life, or change something, or start suddenly eating meat because I was vegan at that time, or start suddenly taking a lot of iron. I just somehow I was blocked to take that action, which I supposed to take consciously, I mean, you would be thinking like, okay, if you're having issues and they tell you you have low iron, you should start taking it. But somehow I was thinking like, oh, I'm just gonna eat more beans or whatever. So I was just like not there. And then when I was in bed, really sick with one of my virus infection, and I did this source memory healing, it brought me back to a past life when actually I was in a cave And in the cave, a big animal, it was like a dragon. I mean, I think it's a predator. Maybe it was a, how you call it, a Jurassic thing, you know, how you call them?
Yeah,
Dinosaur.
dinosaur. Yeah.
Dinosaur, yeah. So one of those animal actually bit off my whole head in that past life, and then my blood was like this and then spreading out. It was a really bad vision, and I had to hear that. And then what happened, it was mind blowing, because after I finished the session, like within couple of minutes, I received a text message from my doctor to pick up your iron from the pharmacy. And I didn't even talk to that doctor. They told me in the hospital that reach out to your GP, and then I didn't do it. I don't know where with my mind. But then that time, as soon as I finished the session, within minutes, the text message came. So I just said to my son that please go and pick up my iron. And from tomorrow, I'm going to start eating meat because I need to get out of this thing. So then basically in a month's time, I was eating all kinds of food which had iron, like chia seeds, spirulina, eggs, everything. I was looking at all like what contains iron, and I was eating them like in every meal. And literally like in 1 month's time, I got back to my power, and to my health. And then, but it somehow needed that healing to actually me acknowledging it. And sometimes, when we are coaches, we are healers, we try to convince people to do things, or we try to tell them like, you need discipline to stop doing this or to implement this. And then we are like, why are you not doing it? Because you are your own enemy, your mindset is your, but sometimes you are so blocked because of your destiny as well, because of your blueprint, or because of whatever you created in the past, or happened to you in the past, is so much blocking you currently, that until you don't heal that or release that, you are unable to make a conscious or good decision for yourself. So it's so annoying, I know, but it happens to me as well, and to, I guess, many people who has
Oh,
the information. They have the information what they're supposed to do, but they're not doing it.
yeah. Immediately an experience came to mind for me where, like, clearly I knew I needed to make a different choice in my life, but I had absolutely no motivation. And I knew what to do, but I didn't want to do it. And it took me almost a year, or it might have taken several years to finally get to a point where I felt like safe enough to go ahead and take that step in that direction. And that is, and the synchronicities, like you said, when those things get unblocked, life opens up to us, and we're met wherever we are. So like for you, you needed, like, those doctors were there for you, and they helped get you into, and they're, and off, you're off to the races in your healing. And it might be, different things for different people, but how beautiful how do we get unblocked like that? How, like, so you were able to guide yourself into that, what is it that you call it?
It's source memory
There
healing.
we go. So you're able to, so that what, how do you help your clients, and do you give
Yeah,
them
it's
tools to
a
do that
couple
for
of
free?
steps. So that method includes couple of steps you need to go through basically to release the past, and basically get the solution. So it starts with the meditation, with the samadhi meditation, because we need to transcend to access the unconscious mind. And then after we transcend, then we start to communicate with the unconscious, like, okay, this is my issue right now. Then bring me the memories which are related to this issue. Then the memory is gonna start showing up one by one, but we need to like do one release at a time, and then the next meditation, next memory again, and then so it's a 2 hour session with 6, 7 memories to heal, and then it's always we need to go through like release it into supreme pure consciousness and the help of supreme pure consciousness. Basically, we invite it's like the whole energy is there, So basically, we release it to the supreme pure consciousness from all your layers, from all of your bodies and ancestral body and partner as well, because we connected with our partners, life partners, DNA level. So it has to be released from time and places. So it's like a big release from many layers of your existence. And after that, we replace it with positive things like feeling of like forgiveness, love, and security and safety, basically. And then after that, we need to do the forgiveness part. So forgiveness is also important to let go the situation. And you need to forgive to yourself because sometimes many people feel guilt and shame about why they got into that situation. And you need to feel, and you need to forgive to the other people, whoever caused you anything, or even the universe. I had clients who need to forgive to the universe because they were in a between life situation when they were pushed down to come to this lifetime and they didn't want to come because they knew their blueprint, they knew how miserable it's gonna be or what challenges they need to go through, and they said like, no, I don't want to come, but they were pushed. And then now they knew that in this memory they've seen it what happened, and they had to forgive to the universe basically.
That reminds me of a question that I've had of babies that are induced or even C-sections where they don't, there's that freedom of choice of a baby saying, I'm ready to come. And I don't know if you've seen any, experienced any correlation between people who were induced as babies or C-section and kind of this resistance to like, I didn't choose this, I didn't choose, it wasn't my time. And I know I have one of my children was induced and he is taking his sweet time in life. And I feel like there's a connection between him being forced into this world as opposed, and I know that's a little different than what you were saying. It was he was already in utero and had chosen to come into this world. But folks who feel a real resistance to life and like that they need almost a chance to be reborn, like to have a birth experience in a healing sense of saying, okay, now I'm choosing to come into this world and I'm choosing to take my first breath and I'm making the effort to embody myself in life. Is that something that you've seen?
I haven't paid attention to this, or I haven't asked my clients about their birth experience, but it could totally make sense to me. Absolutely. I mean, I can imagine because if I know that the spirit wasn't ready up there, then probably they're when they are a baby or a body, they still don't want to come out, right? I'm still cozy in there and warm, and I know what's coming, so I don't really want that. So yeah, so basically they are still very connected to the veil, other side of the veil, they still know the information, so they still aware what's going on. So I can totally relate to that. Yeah.
Well, something that had come to mind as well, my heart has really been drawn to maternal lineage. And it's something that it I never thought about because we live in a patriarchal society and we follow our father's lineage. And so I've always had this like, well, no, I'm following my father's side of it, like I'm from this place and this is my name and whatnot. And all of a sudden it occurred to me like, oh my gosh, we as women, we have, and it's not a guys, girls, who's better or anything like that, but it is simply the truth of basically the power of motherhood and how when we decide, um, well, I mean, just we as women, we shape our children more than anyone in the world. And in that, we carry with us things from our mothers, from all those generations. And that was you just seem like the perfect person to ask about that and what your thoughts are on how we carry maternal issues, or like as you've seen in ancestral healing and all of that. Can you speak to what you've witnessed and what you believe
Yeah.
regarding the maternal lineage and then how we show up as mothers? How can we make more conscious decisions instead of just continuing to bring in whatever that trauma is?
Yeah, I just want to start with a very interesting information about genetics and the women and girls and boys. So basically, like in my family, the some of the boys can't see properly the colors. Like they have like a color issues. They miss see the maybe the brown and the green and whatever. So they can't really distinguish between them. So, but it's only affect the boys who were coming from the mother's line. So like the boys who were born from the girl mother, like in the family line. What I want to say is that, for example, my son, if he's gonna have a child and a son, that's not gonna have the same issue. But if my daughter is going to have a son, that boy cannot have an issue. You know what I'm saying? So it's really interesting. That's how came into our whole bloodline. Like it's from mothers to the son, and then from if it's there's another daughter, then from her to the son. Like okay, it's just an interesting thing to say, but how connected we are, right? And then the woman thing in it. So basically, for trauma, the traumatic experiences in motherhood, like what could those be? Like abortion, abuse, could be like also divorce or getting widowed, and then what happens when those things happens is either the woman feels unheard, unseen, or unsupported, or feels like they need to carry the whole world on their shoulders, like for example, like okay, because the male person left, then now everything is on their shoulder. So what is happening in many times, what I see, that the woman becomes very masculine, very strong, like, and then push back the feminine part of them. And because of that, is affecting their relationships, and also what person they attract into their life. So being very strong personality because, oh, I need to carry everything in this world because that's what I've seen from my mom, So basically, who you grow up with, that's really affecting you, like if you grow up with your grandma, again, it's a different thing, like, because then you come, then the traumatic things coming straight from your grandmother, because that's what you see, the habits, the behavior, is that how you actually inherit the traumatic effects, because and what they eat, like how they respond, how they react, that's the way, like your subconscious got programmed to those behaviors and beliefs and habits, what you see in your mom as a girl, so in my life, what happened is that my mom was a teacher, and then she was very like critical and judging, like on my studies and everything. So I was always a top student, but I always knew that I had to perform because she always told me, and then she always also was like, oh, your teachers knows me, even though she wasn't in the same school, but it's like I had to show up and then study and whatever. So then when I had kids with my son at the beginning, I was really strategic, and then I was really responsible, and I had to learn lose this kind of being like my mom used to be with my daughter, because she was so different. And then also later with my son, as well as he was transforming and shifting to different directions, and not into the school system so much, so basically understanding that being that strict and being so judging and criticizing about the studies and always focusing on the achievement, or the what the child is doing in the school, I had to shift it into more what makes them happy, what keeps their mental health great, their wellness, their well-being, their happiness. So I was shifting it completely to that direction. And then with COVID time, I took them out for homeschooling completely, so they didn't go back to school after that. So of course my mom was like, oh my goodness, and even their dad, I mean, I'm divorced, so he heard the story from Hungary, that what I'm doing here, homeschooling my kids. So it was like everybody was like, you know a red flag. But then I seen it on them, that how much more happier they are, how much they are focusing on their strengths, and then creating more of that area what they are talented, and then how it's gonna improve them. So, and then the trust they felt with me, and the connection, it was really strong. So I really made that decision, and I completely went against my mom's traditions or behaviors or whatever, because I made that conscious decision. So I think we can all change. And then it's also coming back to the karma as well. So if you are actually receiving a karmic pattern, because of also for your ancestors or your own behavior, you can have a karmic pattern, like challenges coming into your life. And again, with a mindful decision, you can actually stop karmic cycles. If you make a different decision as you used to make, you can again shift the whole thing and then stop the cycle, and you're not going to have the same challenges anymore. So it's all about consciousness, making the decision. And it's many times when we make these decisions is something new, it's many people fear from it, because, oh, I never done this kind of decision before, or I never done this thing before. So it's like, a lot of risk involved, in their own mind. They think like, oh, how is gonna work out? But if they think about it, there is already many people who's doing it. There was like already many people were doing homeschooling, It's like I'm not the first one. So it actually works for many. So it could work for us, So if you actually go into deeper into the things and say, yeah, I can actually decide that because that's also an option, and go on a different direction and stick with that because it's better.
So what I hear you saying is that we have there's the subconscious and this conscious. And when sometimes our subconscious is kind of poking our conscious saying, hey, when you're ready, we really need to make a change. And just like you with the iron deficiency, and that your subconscious, like, we know what's happening, but we got to wait for you to make the choice. And then in the homeschooling, situation where you're conscious and like, you know what, this just makes a lot of sense to do this. And then subconsciously there were a lot of fears, a lot of like, oh, what is my mom going to think? What's their father going to think? What are their people like? I don't know, am I going to be successful at this? If I pull this out, am I going to hurt my children by making this decision? And that is really all those risks, those that brings up that fear. And then we have to work with our subconscious and say, okay, pony, let's talk about how this is going to be okay. And let's pull out, let's deal with the issues with mom. Let's deal with the issues with others and where my value is, and that I'm going to be just fine if I make a choice that I truly feel is in alignment with my children and myself. I'm good there. But like it's kind of like having two halves of us, and we've always have to make sure that we address both sides. Otherwise we can't get to the growth that we want. And it sounds like that's what you really help your clients with, is being able to put those two kind of in unison, help them work together instead of trying to pull each other apart.
Yeah, because many times when they come to me, they feel lost. They say like, okay, I'm living this life, but I'm actually not happy or I'm not satisfied, and there's this and these things happening, and then but I don't know what's next, or how can I get out of it, or what is different I can do or leave, or what. And then that's when they actually step into this multidimensional existence through the activation we talked about, the pineal gland activation. Suddenly they start to have new ideas, suddenly they start to see new visions, suddenly they start to feel empowered, and then trusting the process as well and trusting themselves. And this was all blocked previously, because they had to heal those PTSD as well. They had to heal how their father was treating them, or how their, I don't know who was treating them, a co-worker or a boss, or what, whoever, ruined their self-esteem. We had to heal that part as well. So now they can trust themselves to build a new life for themselves, and they are not, sitting in the corner and feeling distressed, or feeling like, okay, if I do a move, then I'm gonna ruin everything or whatever. It's like that self-esteem also has to come back. So it is very often, this is the key thing what I'm dealing with people, that due to the PTSDs, they feel weak, they feel, unsupported, or they feel like they can't do certain things, that they hold back all the time.
Yeah, I that sounds like belief. It's that things happen to us and then we form beliefs about ourself or the world or others. And before we can make any changes, we have to address those beliefs that we have. Is that belief serving me? If I really examine that belief, is it do I think it's true? And I know for me, I've had a lot of awakening in the last several years of things that I never thought to question, that I never like, well, this is just what you do. This is the script that you follow. This is the path that you're on. And this is what happens in life. And so, oh well, or this is just what happens in the body. The body is crazy and it just, you never know what's going to happen to you. And so you've just got to hold on for dear life like a roller coaster that doesn't have any real tracks that are stable. And if that is your core belief that life is dangerous and that you are not secure, what are some beliefs that you see showing up, and particularly in women? Like there's, like you were saying, a lot of people who come to you, they feel lost, and they feel like there should be more to life. Have you noticed there being some really common stories coming specifically from women? Is it maybe around their identity or, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Is their self-esteem like not feeling good enough and then not feeling empowered and not having the vision as well. So it's like they feel like, okay, I'm probably not good enough because I don't have a degree or I don't have a whatever, and then a doctor in front of my name or imposter syndromes and stuff like that, and then also like they also having issues with relationships, like not just with their partner but with siblings or with family situations, like children, like teenagers or even older children. Many of them, what happens is that these mothers are actually experiencing how you call it, abandonment by their children, like they're growing up children, they don't reach back to them, they don't want to speak to them, and then they are like, oh my god, was I such a bad mom, or what's happening, why is it? So then we heal that as well, like those traumatic experiences which could lead to this situation, and then how actually what was certain situations they did something, or the child did something, or what happened, in the past, or what happened to them when they were a child or in their past life. So we heal those memories, and then when we were healing those memories, the interesting thing is that um, because we rewrite everything in the Akashic records, that those people start to shift as well. The family members or the partner, they start to shift and change, and suddenly they start to reach out, or suddenly they start to behave differently. And also the person who I am healing, or who's doing the healing, they also change perspective and don't look at it on a such a dark way, and then able to move forward with a more open heart, because many times they close their heart, because of guilt or shame or grief or feeling, like heartbroken. They close their heart chakra, and that means they are unable to give and receive love. So they are just like feeling that uneasy way, they feeling that sadness, that is, this thing is not working, instead of just start living more, from love, or start living more acceptance, and understanding also the other parties, like why these things is happening, because we caught up on sometimes just looking at our own sides. I recently had a client who suffered from heart disease and heart issues. And then she was actually sad why her son and daughter-in-law is not that nice with her. Like how can they be more distanced now when I need them more, or why they are not understanding, why they are actually still causing me stress with certain situations. And then I had to explain her that sometimes people, because she was in such a dark place because of her own issue, she was always very sad, she was always in the rabbit hole and being always so dark, that those people wanted to distance themselves from this energy, especially that they have small children, so this is often happens that when someone is going through depression, let's say, and they have family members, the family members sometimes, instead of coming closer and hugging and supporting, they make a bit of distance, because they don't want that kind of depression energy come into their little family life. I'm saying, especially if it's small children, because they feel how the person is in depressed, and they feel like, oh, if we're gonna engage, we're gonna bring that into our little family. So the person who's depressed, she needs to work on herself to get out of depression feeling much better, and then can open up to those family on a safer space. But can't expect that all the happy flappy, healthy family is gonna come to you into your rabbit hole to get involved with your trauma. That's not fair from you to expect that. So it's like, yeah, it's your responsibility, your health, and then you shouldn't invite in other people into your depression. Is more like your work to do.
That's so true. I'm a huge proponent of radical self-responsibility, which is, again, just in the last several years did I realize, like, oh my gosh, you mean I'm responsible for where I am in my life? Like I've created all of this? Wow, how wonderful. Because that means I can create something different. I am not put here by, oh, you're just a victim and you're in and I think so oftentimes we feel that way in our, whether it's our mental health or whatnot. And some, I'm like, I totally get it. Sometimes Sometimes I get depressed for a couple days and I'm like, I don't know how to get out of this hole. I recognize that it's a hole, but I also trust that it's not going to be forever. And eventually it's going to pass and here we go. But it is really hard when you're in that space, but to realize that, yeah, it's up to me to do the work. It's up to me to reach out. It's up to me to seek out the healing that needs to be done. And my sister has a funny way of when you talk about energetics like that, we do that all the time, especially in a family system where, you wake up in the morning and maybe things just like you stubbed your toe or the shower, all the hot water was gone or something, and you're like, ugh. And so you act negatively towards like someone asks you a question, hey mom, what's for breakfast? Like, I don't know, dog food. And so their family call it passing the poop. And so we're just going to pass the bad attitude on to next, and that person feels crappy because they just got pooped on, and so they're going to act poopy. So energetically, when we are in the dumps, we're passing that energy along. And yeah, it makes sense that other people are going to want to like, I see that, I feel that. I might not even understand what's going on, but I can sense it. And I can't bring any of that into my life right now. I have to protect me and what's mine. And it can look like total rejection. It can look like, what? You don't love me? You're not sympathizing? I'm in the bottom of this pit right now, and where are you? You're supposed to take care of me. That's what friends and family are for. You're like, I hear you, and yet the answer's no. Like you are under every obligation to take care of yourself. And yeah, no one else is responsible for you but you.
And there are lots of people out there who can help. Is your family member can't help. They might just listen and take your poo, as you said, but and then destroy their own peace. But you need to look for someone who really there for you to help, who really can help, actually. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's someone who's not going to take that energy personally, but help you to transmute it, to transform it into something different, to get you out of that negative space and into a positive one. I was listening to one of the podcasts that you were on that's on your website, and you were talking about gratitude and starting the day and ending the day in a place. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that? Because that is a great takeaway for anyone listening to be able to say, okay, how can I create the change in my life that I want to see? What are some small habits that I can create?
Yes, gratitude is a great thing, and it's just realizing your blessings, like counting your blessings, basically, like what you can be feel grateful for, and then sometimes there are things which maybe surprise you. Maybe 10 years ago you wouldn't realize this thing, and then now is like one of your blessings, basically. It depends where you are, it depends what level of life you're living, and then it's just like yeah, what perspective you're looking at it is so important, because we have heaven and hell on earth, right? And then what perspective we're looking at it, that's what we live, right? We live heaven if we're looking at it with that perspective, or we live in hell. And it can be the same house, same room, or whatever. It's like it's your own perspective. You're creating your own reality with your own perspective and mindset. So gratitude is a good thing to put yourself into, because then you're already in a good perspective, right? And then the other thing, like sometimes they say, okay, I'm in the rabbit hole. I can't even be grateful. I can't even come up with any gratitude thing. So then I always suggest to start doing the samadhi meditation, because with the samadhi meditation, when you transcend, you start to produce in delta brainwaves the most important hormones, like on an extra boost, like the serotonin, melatonin, oxytocin, growth hormone. And what happens is you're going to become more focused, more loving, more kind person, have a more vital body, and have a better mood just doing the meditation. I had people who told me, like, they were not even my clients, they just went into my my one of my meditation library, and they started to do the meditation daily basis, and they said that, oh, my mom is already recognized that I'm different, I'm much more kinder, and then I behave differently just doing this meditation. So when you start doing this meditation, it's easier to be in gratitude. It's easier to start implementing better habits. It's more effortless to be disciplined. It's more effortless to, start eating on a more healthier way, because you raise your vibration as well. Because when you transcend, you raise your vibration to the vibration of the universe. So that's already healing. A cell level healing is also happening. But then in that frequency, you start realizing that you don't eat the same food anymore because the food has also frequency. So your body not aligned with low frequency food. So you also start, it's more effortless. Any kind of changes or habits you want to change is more effortless with this specific meditation.
Well, that is perfect. I just hosted a free vision board a masterclass. And, as you're approaching the new year, we like to make lists and goals and things. And we want to choose healthier habits. But like you're saying, if we're not in the right vibrational frequency, we're not even going to really desire. That's why we fall
Yeah.
off of those goals. And you help people with creating successful habits too.
Yeah, and then that's what I'm saying. It's actually not that difficult and it's not like forcing and pushing and strategic. It's more like being aligned and more like the frequency than healing through healing and frequencies. I have a 5-step method which I also use for reaching your goals, and this goal can be also, success or weight loss or whatever is that goal. But these 5 steps, I felt like this is really crucial to go through. And the first step is basically to have the conscious decision, like what do you want? Make that decision, like I want that. Because if you don't have like a goal or a conscious decision, then you have no like a direction, right? So you make first the conscious decision. The second one is the subconscious mind, the beliefs we talked about, and the habits needs to be aligned with this conscious decision. Because if they are not aligned, again, you're not gonna get there. So you need to make sure that you reprogram your subconscious mind to the right beliefs and then habits to actually get into the right direction. And the third step is to releasing the traumatic experiences, because with source memory healing, because when you release those, then you're not getting triggered, you're not falling off, because you're riding an emotional roller coaster right now, like if you are not doing the healing work, you're riding an emotional roller coaster, which means you're always sidetracked from your goal. You're always gonna be like going all directions. But if you do the healing work, again, it's gonna be more smooth out and more effortless to take those steps or to follow towards your goals. And then the fourth one is getting aligned with the universe. How you get aligned with the universe is more about knowing also some informations about astrology, numerology, portals, because sometimes we are like, okay, why I am feeling this way, because maybe there are some some sun flares coming out and then it's hitting the earth, or maybe there is a full moon, or maybe there is a Mercury retrograde, or anything could come around, and can make you that way, feel that way, and you shouldn't like start freaking out. So if you have those informations, or the numerological portals for manifestation, or for renewals, or and doing things aligned with that is give you more trust and more peace, and then also being able to more surrender if you need to surrender, or doing adjustments or reflections if you need to do, is like more allowing you to guide you on a smoother way than for example, if people don't follow these things like astrology, numerology, and all of these energies, and try to push all the time, they're gonna feel like they are going against the, like they create, what do you call it? They're going against the energy, like they create resistance basically, because they're pushing even when there is not going to be any results coming out of it in this couple of weeks, because it's a certain energy is going on, right? So there are some times when you need to actually rest and reflect and adjust, because whatever you're pushing most likely not working, or is just you override yourself, you overwhelm yourself, and then eventually you're gonna have a some burnout, and then we don't want that. You don't want that. So if you are aligned with this, then you know like when to rest, when to adjust, when you reflect. And then the fifth steps is taking inspired actions, because if you're not taking actions, you're always just dreaming, or visualizing, that again your goal is not going to happen. So whenever you feel inspired, just take action, just do it. For example, lately I just felt an urge to delete my one of my account and then create a new one, and then just like completely rearrange stuff. And then I was like, why I am having this urge, like even to start something now? And then I just realized that, oh, it's going to be a very powerful new moon, we're already in the new moon energies. I was like, oh, okay, then it makes sense, because we are in the final year of the 9 years. Basically, this is the ninth universal year. And then the next year, 2026, is going to be the first universal year, new beginning. So like this year was all about like closing chapters and then also receiving rewards, but also lots of closing chapters, healing, getting rid of things which is not the right way to do things, shifting a lot of things. And then from next year is going to be the new beginning when you can implement new things, you can build upon new things. And then I was like, why I'm feeling already energized doing new things? Shouldn't I wait till January? And then I was just like, I just feel doing it now. And suddenly I've seen it that is new moon this Friday, and then I mean, or in a couple of days. And then I was like, oh, that's why I feel this urge, because the ideas was already coming, it was already like the inspiration was already coming. And then I was like, I want to take action. I want to take action. But should I wait till January? And then I say new moon. Okay, then I'm going to take action. So basically take action when you feel it, because then that brings you closer to your dreams. Whatever you visualize in manifestations, we visualize a lot and it's a great thing to do. So I highly recommend it because it's really powerful. So visualize your dreams, but then when the inspiration comes, then take action, because maybe that step is what gonna create what you visualized.
That's beautiful. What do you say to people who feel like they always have inspiration and they're always starting things, but they never follow through, or it feels like, oh, I'm just so inspired. And so they kind of feel chaotic in they're always onto a new adventure, like, oh, now I'm gonna focus on playing the violin and I'm gonna start and get a bluegrass band going and all that. And then, 3 weeks later, they're like, well, no, actually, I'm gonna get back at painting. And I'm kind of talking about myself here, but there's some people have just kind of get hit by a lot of things, but I'm curious if you would see it as being blocked. Like if you like you're maybe you haven't dealt with number two yet. Maybe you in the five steps that you were talking about, maybe there
Yeah.
are things that are blocking you from, I guess I think that some people they may get hit with those inspirations, and it's wonderful to choose those because that's energy that we feel. And when we go with our energetic flow, that's powerful. And I agree that I think we should step into that because it moves us forward so beautifully. But if we
Yeah,
still have those
I see.
rocks in the way, we're only going to get so far and then we're going to stop ourselves. And it could be around like, I don't believe that I'm successful or that I'm not allowed to be successful. Maybe I'm not allowed to be bigger than I am because I'm supposed to stay small because that's safer. I'll let you go ahead and talk to that.
Yeah, yeah. So absolutely, like the point two or point three is missing, then basically you're not finishing probably those things up. Like maybe you got the inspiration, you take the action, but then why you are sitting in that book you wrote and why you haven't published yet, right? So it's like, and I think that's when the healing comes in, obviously, and the subconscious reprogramming, because as soon as you do the healing, the energy gonna come in, and suddenly some people is gonna coming into your life and then encourage you and then do it, help with you. So for example, it was actually the same thing for me. Like I was finishing my book around May, and in the whole summer I was sitting on it because I couldn't decide if I should publish it myself, if I should publish paperback or Kindle, or if I should give it to a publisher. So I was like in a limbo in like a couple of months, and then I was doing healings as well in that time. And then suddenly I met with a friend, and he said, oh, I just published my book. If you want, I can help you when I am back from my vacation. I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. So I got so excited. And then I said it to a friend who helped me with my first book. And she was like, you know what? If you do that, then we should get a better cover, like a better design and a better editing. And I was like, okay, you know what? Yeah, sure. So I sent it quickly to her. She made a perfect designs, everything. And then while I was waiting for the guy to come back from the vacation, I had an idea like, what if I can just do it myself, And then because I got inspired. So basically, I actually didn't do the Kindle version, what he was suggesting and wanted to have, but I did the paperback because that was already ready, like the PDF and everything. So it's like, oh, it's faster and it's better. So actually, I just did it. And then I was so happy. And then I was just felt really great that it's actually done. And then it was really, and then I did, as I said, a lot of healings during summer, like July, August. And I think that was like a result of those healing practices as well.
That's so beautiful. And congratulations on getting your book out there.
Yeah,
Like,
actually, this is here.
tell
Is
us about
the
it.
Yeah, it's the gap filler success, and it's simple steps to reach your goals. And the 5-step method is in this book, and there's other methods in there. Also, there is meditations in there, visualization techniques. And this is really interesting about this book. It has two parts, and the first part of the book is more for people who's not spiritual and doesn't believe in law of attraction or manifestation, but they are more strategic, because that was how I reached my goals before I became truly spiritual. Like when I was in the university or when I was working as an engineer, how I was stepping up in my career or how I was doing certain things, how I reached amazing career opportunities. And that is there my strategy I used, And then also in the second part is when I started to achieve goals when I was already believing in spirituality and manifestation and stuff. And then that's when I started like the visualizations or meditations, astrology, numerology. So all of those are in this book, and then not just like techniques, but also my life story. So like lots of journeys there. I traveled around the world. I was having different occupations in different countries. So all of those stories also in here. So it's a really nice book, and I was really happy about it to put all of this together. I'm really excited about this.
That is fantastic. I will link it in the show notes so that people can
Thank
find
you.
it and get it and be able to help themselves to fill the gaps to their success as well. Is there anything that has come to mind or has been on your heart that you want to share before we close?
Yeah, so I just want to share that sometimes when people start to become spiritual or going through their awakening journey, they try to fix everything on a spiritual way. So they are like, oh, am I feeling this way because that person is draining my energy? Or am I this and this because some ancestral or whatever entities are on me? So sometimes they are too much caught up on explaining everything on a spiritual way when might they just need to change their diet, maybe they just need to have more nutrient food, or they need to do more exercise, or need to do some taking some vitamins or whatever. So I just recommend that when you do the healing, it should go on a three level, like body, mind, and spirit. And the body is like taking care of your physical health, basically eating well and sleep well, and also like if you are an anxious person, don't take caffeine or alcohol, obviously. And then just find the way what is the most healthiest thing for you. And then the mind is being mindful is really also important for even for your better life in your karmic cycles, or in your how to reach your goals. Mindfulness is about basically controlling your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. And then everything is comes from your thoughts. We are our biggest enemy, right? If we are having negative assumptions, obviously we start feeling negative emotions, and then we already ruining our own health because we are blocking our chakras. And then by that, like, you also making bad decisions. But if you are focusing like, okay, I'm gonna think positive, I'm gonna be optimistic, I'm gonna trust the process, I know it's gonna something great coming out of it, then you're already feeling like joyful and happy. And then of course then you make better decisions, you are more excited, you are a better health as well, because you are in positive energy, your aura is nice and clean. So that's all connected. And then of course if you do the spiritual work, then the other two, taking care of your body and being mindful, is easier again. So starting with the spiritual work make it more effortless to be in discipline and getting the right things.
Beautiful. That makes so much sense as well. And I agree that sometimes I think especially when you get fascinated with the whole realm of things, maybe it's someone who's totally fascinated just with the physical. And so they're in the gym and they're eating their rice and their broccoli and their chicken and whatnot, and they're doing all the right things for their body, but they have neglected the mindfulness and they have no regard for the spiritual aspect of themselves. And so they're still at a deficiency. There's having that, I mean, we are a trifecta of those three things. That is the experience we have on this earth, is that we are a body and we do have a mind and we also have a spirit. So yeah, that's such a great reminder to make sure taking care of all those things.
Yeah.
And that it is a choice. Like it totally is, that we get to choose if we're going to live on autopilot and not have to think much, or if we want to be intentional with our lives. And so it sounds like people who are wanting to be intentional, but don't really know how to get started, that they would be really benefited by reaching out to you to be able to work with.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your heart and your stories. And again, super congratulations on your book. I'm excited to get it and to read it and go through it as well. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, everybody.
If today's conversation stirred something in you, I'd love to stay connected. The very best place to find me and to really be a part of what we're building is on Substack. That's where I share my weekly letters, the behind the scenes, our family life, and the deeper teachings that I can't always fit into the podcast. So you can join me at wholewomanawakening.substack.com. And if you're listening on a podcast app, following the show helps more women find these conversations. I am so glad you're here. Thank you for being part of this awakening.